Welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig out of Starshot Studios in Times Square. Today we are meeting one of the most inspirational people I have ever heard about, and that is the truth. Eric Martinez. He is an actor, director, activist. I'm sure he's other things, but he's so many things that he's going to have to fill us in on all the rest. He has 6 movies coming out, a new book that will come out, and just the most fascinating story that I think everyone really should hear and be inspired by. So, Eric, thank you so much for coming. I mean, I was reading your story, and as a therapist, it was just so inspirational because you talk about the various rejections that you had been through from the beginning of your life. So I hope you'll take us to the beginning, because you write that you were rejected by your family. You were abused throughout portions of your life. You were told that you would never make it in the business as a recording artist. You said family made fun of you behind your back and said, poor thing, he doesn't know he's not going to make it yet. And yet you are here, and you were telling a fantastic story, which we'll get to later, about why Times Square is such an important place for you and a symbol of success, hopefully, and how far you've come. Tell us a little bit about your early history, because I know as a therapist that is very real for many people, and it's hard for people to get over childhood trauma. I don't want to say that what you experienced was traumatic, because I don't know.
It was very.
Okay. Rejected from your family, what was that about?
Well, you know, it's funny because I'm actually currently writing a book called titled Relentless, which
I love it.
Is pretty much the story of my life. And
when does your book come out?
We're looking at the summer of 2018.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic.
We're really excited. I would love to be able to come back.
You come back anytime, and I want to read the book, and we will promote it, and I'm just so excited for you. Good for you.
Thank you. You know, from a very young age, you know, I was constantly being told I was never good enough. And, you know, now, you know, I feel like God has a timing for everything, and God works in mysterious ways, and maybe there was a reason I went through all of that to be where I'm at today. But and thank God I've mended things with all of my family. But back then, you know, I think, you know, when you're young,
understands or is ready for the responsibility it takes when you have kids.
Right. Well, and you know, when I was when I was real young, I was taken to Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh,
Hang on, guys, a sec. Sorry, I just lost. We can pick up from.
Okay. It's a good thing it's taped. We can just blend it all together.
Absolutely.
So, pick up from the question that you just had, which was about, you know, we were talking about how the family.
Okay. So I'll tell you. So, you know, I guess a lot of people, what they don't realize is when you have kids, you have to be mature enough and ready for it, because kids have needs. And if you're not at that right point in your life, it can create a big conflict for both mother and child.
Well, you know, the thing is too, is like with my family, a lot of people who have read parts of my book already and have heard my story. I speak all over the country, and people who have heard some of my story, one of the questions I get asked the most is, how do you forgive? How have you learned to let go of that?
Right.
And I've always said that anger it'll hurt. Holding on to that will hurt you more than it hurts them. And
how did you get to that place, though? Because, you know, it's a hard place to get to. I mean, and you're absolutely right. The more that we stay angry, it keeps us attached to the situation and keeps it alive for us. And of course, anger is normal for a period of time. What was your process in letting go of the anger? Did someone teach you how to do that, or was it just an internal knowing?
Well, you know, the thing is, and this is something that that had kept me strong, even through those years when, you know, I was left in Pittsburgh with a family that wasn't mine. I always had an undying faith in the Lord. I prayed, every day.
Wow.
And here's the thing, I firmly believe that I am forgiven daily by God. I'm forgiven daily. I am nobody, and I'm beyond nobody to extend forgiveness. And I had to find that. It was hard, because there were times when I was so angry at the way the circumstances in my life had been. I didn't get to celebrate birthdays and holidays and Christmases.
What family were you left with?
I was left with my stepdad's family.
Your stepfather's family.
Yes, and
Wow.
we lived in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in the country, where our closest neighbor was 30, 40 miles away. So a lot of very bad things happened on that farm.
You talk about being abused until
Yes.
you were 13 or 14?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of very bad things happened on that farm, and they're going to be revealed in the book. And
Okay.
my biggest fear in that was revealing some of that stuff, because a lot of my family doesn't even know. My mom once, when we reconciled, she once asked me, she said, "Why? How come you never talk to me about your time in Pittsburgh?" And I told her, because you wouldn't be able to handle what I would tell you. The book, I think I'm going to allow everybody into a part of my world that I've been holding back for years, for a long time.
I hope they make your book into a movie.
Uh,
If they made your book into a movie, would you play yourself?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. I would
Okay.
love to direct it.
Yeah,
but,
there you go.
Yes, but probably not. But going back to the forgiveness and saying that I had to find that path of forgiveness, because it was making me angry, and I was making decisions based on my anger. When I was told that, and the funny thing is, when I was told that God would help me through it all, a lot of times I didn't want to believe that.
Who told you that?
I had several people. I had several people in my life that would constantly tell me, and I would read the Bible a lot. I carried the Bible with me. I read the Bible a lot. I would pray a lot. And as I started learning more about what the Bible represented and what it meant to me in my life, I realized that forgiveness is key. It is key. You cannot harbor anger, because it'll detract you from anything you want to do. Anger, I've used that anger in a positive way for motivation to get
I
me
was
through
going
the
to
tough
say,
times.
anger can be a great motivator.
Right.
To be like, I'll show you, I'll show myself, but it has to be channeled correctly so it's not self-destructive. Was your anger ever self-destructive at various times in your life?
Oh yeah, there were several. Yeah, because you go through those stages.
Yeah, of
You
course.
go through the stages
Yeah.
of sorrow and depression and anger, and then being resentful. I went through all of it, and there were times when I would shut myself down from the entire world, and anybody that crossed my path, I felt like I was being challenged by everybody. And my first instinct was to defend myself, because for so many years I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to defend myself.
You didn't have the power
I didn't
as a
have the
child
power.
being abused.
Right. I
Which
didn't have
is
the
why
power.
they're targeted,
Exactly.
because they don't have any power.
That's right.
You talk a lot about, and you have an organization, and you work with schools, and I guess you can tell me more about all the various places your organization lives. It's an anti-bullying
Right.
organization called I Have Your Back, and I think we have some information. It's a worldwide anti-bullying campaign that you created based on your own experience
Yes.
with bullying.
Yes.
Who bullied you? Where were you bullied?
Oh, I was bullied. I was bullied at home, and then all through elementary school, all through middle school, and through high school. I was the kid that I was, tiny. And I'm still not very big now, but I would get put in gym bags and carried around
Oh,
the
wow.
school. I would get stuffed in lockers. I would get stuffed in trash cans and rolled down the hall. And at the time, I felt like any type of attention. Here's this. I think the sad part about it is that you become so used to it that it's like the norm. And if you're not being, I just wanted attention, so even the bad attention felt good to me. You start becoming okay with it.
Yeah.
And I was bullied, and I wanted to make sure that, and I always said this, if I ever get to a point in my career where my voice means something, and I have a platform, I'm going to use it for good. I speak all over the country. I have an incredible following when it comes to the anti-bullying campaign, and I love doing what I do. I love hearing the stories of these kids who have hear my story and they feel like if you can do it, and that's my whole point. If people, when they hear my story, my whole goal is to inspire and encourage them. Like, look, nothing is ever as bad as it seems, and this too will pass. Trust me, it's not forever. And bullying stops when you stop it. A lot of people are waiting for the bully to stop, but it's when you stop it is when it stops.
So what do you advise to kids now who have to deal with the cyberbullying, which is very different because, you know, we are about, I imagine, the same generation. We didn't have the technology. So we'd get bullied maybe at school or something would happen. You'd go home, you'd close the door, and you could avoid at least the bullying from one area. Now the bullying is 24/7, where you can be humiliated online and it lives there. How do you help kids put in perspective that this is a temporary thing?
Well, you know, the thing is
because suicides are up.
Yes.
They're up with kids, they're up in general.
Well, and you know, I often say this from both ends of the spectrum, whether you're being bullied or you are bullied, that starts from home. It's a reflection of your environment. I was bullied my whole life. I turned from being bullied to becoming a bully to protect myself.
Right.
And that all stemmed from what I grew up with. I believe that communication is key. Talk to your children. And I tell the kids this all over the place. Kids in this day and age, they feel like it's uncool to ask for help or show that they're afraid. Ask for help. I tell parents all over, get into your child's life. Be in their business.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you have no idea what they might be going through.
And I also think when it comes to bullying, especially cyberbullying, it's a community issue as well.
It very much so is.
So, you know, hopefully families can handle it, but, you know, the community also has to step in and be proactive.
Well, and you know, too, if you're confident about who you are, and I try to preach on that as constantly as I can. I tell these kids, be confident. It's okay to be you. You don't have to be like everybody else. When you're confident in who you are, you're not worried about everything else. You're not worried about what's being said about you on Facebook because it's just words, and words hurt.
Yeah.
They do. They damage and they hurt. But when you're confident in what you do and who you are, you know, I was a bully. I became a bully, and I can tell you I was on both ends of the spectrum. I know that if I picked on someone and they paid me no mind, it was no longer fun for me. I moved on to the next person.
It's more fun to get a huge reaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know.
So is that what you advise to kids, that to not react or to stand up for yourself and move on?
Stand up for yourself. Move on. Be confident in who you are. Delete is one of the greatest buttons on the computer.
Yeah, or block.
Block, delete. It's very simple. You don't have to. There are people who are on the public eye. People ask me all the time, how do you don't get bullied. I have kids tell me, you don't get bullied anymore because you're a celebrity and you get to do this. Oh, no, I'm a bigger target now.
Yes.
I get it all the time.
Oh, right.
You know, I was telling the school I just spoke to in Texas. I spoke to, almost 4,500 students in Texas recently, and I was telling the students, like, sometimes if I don't see anything going on my Instagram, I'll start a fight with myself, just to drum up some.
Right. Don't you notice me?
Yeah,
Where's the haters?
Action,
Where's the haters?
Because when you become confident in who you are, and here's the thing, I fully have the grace of God with me, so I don't worry about that stuff anymore. I really don't. Don't worry about what anybody else says to me.
Somebody once said, when I was writing my book, called Your Best Age Is Now, I had a whole spirituality chapter because I really believe in order to attain mental health, you have to be plugged into that spirituality. And I interviewed Kathy Lee Gifford for that chapter because she's a woman who walks the walk and talks the talk.
Yes.
And I've spoken about her many times on this show. But when I was interviewing her, she said the wonderful thing about access to God is that it's free. You don't need to pay anything.
That's right.
It's available to everyone. And that really stuck with me because it sounds like that's what you did in your life. You somehow were pointed in the right direction. Now, was there a special teacher or pastor that saw specialness in you and said, stick with it, or I see your talent, I see your charisma?
You know, there was a gentleman right after I graduated high school that became kind of my spiritual mentor at the time, and he was a spiritual leader. And I to this day, when I talk about him, it kind of chokes me up. But his name is Monaco Candelaria, and he was the one that showed me that it was okay to dream even bigger than I could even ever imagine. And he always told me, he said, listen, whenever you're afraid, take a deep breath, take 3 seconds, take a deep breath, and just ask God to be with you. Just say, God, be with me. And I can't tell you how many times, right across the street from this studio, right there in the Marriott Marquis, for the time that I was there, sleeping in that bathroom and sitting in the lobby, watching everybody else eat, smelling the food, and I couldn't get any of it because I believed that I could come here and make it. His words stuck with me numerous times. It's easy to give up. It's easy to want to quit.
And so we should just tell everybody out there that, Eric, you came here with like $43 or so. No, you came here with more money than that.
Not much,
but New York is an expensive place.
And
you
I had
came
no
with
idea.
a certain amount of money, thought you could, be in the best hotel in New York City, came to Times Square, realized you couldn't afford not only the best place, but probably any place that was up and down Times Square. You thought you'd be a big star, and you end up really being homeless for a period of time in the Marriott Marquis, which is not too far from this studio. And it was your resilience and the kindness of a janitor, right? Who gave you food?
Yeah, he noticed I was sitting in the same chair every night. I would sit at the window, and I would look over Times Square, and I would I would just think to myself, how did I get myself in this situation, and how can I get myself out? I can't quit. I've come this far, I can't quit.
So quitting was never an option?
Never an option. It was never
Even
an
when
option.
you got multiple rejections, so you tried out for 100, movie parts, got rejected. You were told you didn't have enough experience. You were not the right height. You didn't have the right whatever it was.
Right.
What did you tell yourself during that time? Because a lot of people, listen, when I was pursuing television, I thought my middle name was No. And now I think my first name is No, but that's a different story. I did rely on people who believed in me and I had a belief in myself, but when you hear no all the time, even if you believe in yourself, it's hard to believe in the world that you're trying to get into.
That's right.
So what was your motivation to not quit?
I knew that if I kept going, that no matter what, I knew I could get to a better place. Here's my thing. You do today what others won't, so you can do tomorrow what others can't. And I would remind myself of that every single day. I still do to this day. It's not like I don't face rejection still. I just recently heard last week, because, here's the thing. I get tapped to be the bad guy in all the movies I'm in. It's always the bad guy, And I finally said, look, I want to do bigger things. I want more. I want roles that tap into the comedic side of me, the drama side of me, the love side of me. And I was told, well, a lot of people don't think you really can do that. A lot of people still don't think you can stretch that far. And all it did was motivate me. Here's the thing, no doesn't exist in my household. I can't, those are words I don't use. I don't use those words.
I found a strategy that worked is, I just don't think that those people are necessarily right.
No.
They're not necessarily right.
People try to impose their fears onto you.
Right, or just limitations, or they don't
Right.
know until it works. You have 6 movies coming out, so do you want to let everyone know what movies we can find you in?
Yes, well, I'm in a movie that's coming out in theaters this summer called Justice.
Okay.
With myself, Stephen Lang, my good friend Quentin Aaron, Jamie Lynn Sigler is in the film.
Oh, wow.
Super excited. Nathan Parsons, and some of the other films that I'm doing. I'm directing 4 of them, producing all 6 of them, co-starring in all of them. It's The Cardinal Sin, Money is King, The Street Cleaner, Busy Day, December Rose, and oh gosh, there's one more.
There's so many now
Wild Things.
There's so many.
Yes.
Imagine. Do you ever pinch yourself and say, "Wow, it's good to be here"?
Do you know what? Right now, I work so hard, and I'm such in a mode that I will stop to smell the roses when I'm complete, and that's probably not going to be for a long time.
So just enjoy the
Well,
ride.
and my thing is this: is a lot of people say it can't be done. If Tyler Perry can do it, I know I can do it. I
Yep.
know I can.
Well, you are already doing it. We have a segment called Keeping It Real where I ask some questions. So will you play along with us?
I sure will.
Okay. Your strongest personal quality, which I think we can already guess.
My attitude.
Your attitude. And I also just want to say your resilience is incredible.
Thank
I
you.
mean, we should all bottle it and then drink it. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Who do you most admire in life?
Who I most admire in life? God.
Okay. What was one of your most defining moments in life?
One of my most defining moments was when I was told I was in the trailer for Love Lies Bleeding with Christian Slater. And it's funny, I had some friends from here. I was in New Mexico. I had some friends from here call me and say, hey, I just saw you on MTV. There was a trailer and you were in it. I thought they were playing with me. I thought they were messing with me. And sure enough, for me, that was like, I did it. I finally did it. I'm in a movie trailer. I'm the first person you see.
So great.
I finally did it.
Such a great feeling. What is the best piece of advice you've received?
Be kind. I was told, just be kind. When love resides in your heart, it'll show. And just be kind. Everybody deserves love. Everybody. Don't judge. Everybody deserves a fair shot.
Well, you are a true gift, and I know that more greatness is going to come your way, and congratulations on your engagement. You have a beautiful fiance, and I'm so glad she was able to join us here today. And thank you so much. Don't forget to watch, follow, and look for Eric Martinez. He's a real superstar. More to come, and we will see you next Monday at 6 o'clock on Talking Live.